You like comics? You bet we do. How about artwork? Yeah, we fucking love that too. You like movies? Whether they are old or new. How about streaming? We watch that fucking shit, it's true. But it's comic book art that gets us all fired up for the all-time great. So let's buckle up. Hear me out, I'ma tell you how it all goes down on the Blacklist Underground.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Blacklist Underground, brought to you by Ideal Organic CBD, starring our favorite artist, Zach Howard. Hi, Zach.
Hola, how are you today?
Good. Zach is the creator of the hit series Wild Blue Yonder, as well as illustrator of The Cape, Hellboy, Judge Dredd, TMNT, and too many others to mention. I'm your host, enthusiastic comic book aficionado, JC Washburn. Each episode, we choose a comics legend to ink a comic book panel of, and this week's it is none other than Arthur Adams, perhaps the most influential comic book artist of his generation. And this week's guest, we welcome Walden Wong.
Guys.
A multi-award-winning comic book artist and inker who has worked for every major publisher, almost Archie even. And more importantly, he inked Arthur Adams' classic run on The Incredible Hulk. Zach, hit us up with our Patreon blacklisters this week.
All right, we got some new ones, so exciting. But we'll run through it in no particular order. We're going to start with Scott Bouillon, who awesome artist in his own right, and I believe has an image series coming out soon. Yeah, thanks, Scott. Our next one is William de Geest. He's in our top tier, which means he gets a chance at Runge's Frazetta paintings.
Cool.
We got our NASA buddy, Anthony DiGello Nardo. We'll just call him DiGiorno. He knows he loves it. One of my longtime friends had to get some Runge art, so he is helping us out. Next one is Andrew Jacks is what we have. If it's more that, if it's Andrew Jackson, I don't know. For whatever reason, the list that my dear Clara sent me is cut off here. We get ... after Jacks. So Andrew Jacks, yell at me online, please. But thank you. Philip Jean-Pierre, my friend. I'm even spitting on my paper. Thanks, buddy. Olga Macia, who's near Barcelona, Spain, up-and-coming artist herself. The guy with the best name ever, Kurt Kroll, who's starring in the sequel Kroll 2, comes out next year. Steve McKay, thank you so much for being a Patreon. And last but not least is Patrick McNerney. Let's roll, JC. Walden, thank you for coming. This is exciting.
Yeah, usually when I do the inking, I'm always inking the face first, and then I'll ink the hands later. Yeah, I think that's the most important part of the artwork, the faces and the hands. And then the rest is just like automatic.
I agree. It's what is really doing the acting, right? The character emoting. So, but some, outside of the odd panels, I kind of start around the face to kind of find how thick I want to make the detail lines, like on the interior of the face. Yeah. And then I kind of, once I find a few lines on the outside, I pop back in. But again, I was world-renowned a ceramicist before becoming a comic book artist, so I don't actually know that much.
So were you always like a comic book like fan or something, or how did you get from ceramic to comic?
Oh, well, I guess I'll bother people real quick. Yeah, always a comic book fan. Growing up, especially into my teens. Kind of fell out of it between the Marines and then going to college. I went into art and I didn't even know how to become a comic book artist, and eventually just did painting and ceramics. And then by the end, I was doing my thesis on like figurative ceramics, but I had to take an illustration class to graduate. So I and the thesis professor had done like some Dark Horse Presents, like Alien vs. Predator type thing, which to me was unbelievable at the time. So I took the class. He took a shine to me, took me to like MegaCon with like my class art, and I got a bunch of interest. So
Was it
when I
samples? Was it
excuse me,
was it like sequential pages and stuff like that, or?
just a couple. I mean, this is literally one semester. I wasn't even done with the semester yet of the illustration class, but so I didn't have a lot. I sat next to Sanford Green actually, and I just sat together. It was like his first con, and of course he's already freak talented. But what a wonderful guy. We had a lot of fun. Regardless, it just kind of ignited it in me that, oh my gosh, I can actually do comic books, but I didn't have very much drawing skill. So my girlfriend at the time, I just basically convinced her, hey, let me just work for almost no dollars. And for 2.5 years. And I just did like GURPS gaming manuals and things like that, which eventually led me to doing my first Hellboy story because they got the rights to the Hellboy game.
Oh, nice.
So I did 5 pages in that, and then my career kind of just took off after that. I mean, it wasn't any good, but somehow it worked out, and one thing led to another, and now I'm here talking to you.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you're a big name. You're a big name guy. When Justin told me that, hey, Zach, I'm like, are you serious?
I doubt that, sir, but I appreciate it. It's actually a little odd to be sitting with you because, when you're on the other side of the table, so long ago, you had a heck of a jump on me as far as career goes in working with, legends, etc. So this is quite exciting for me, sir. And
thank you. Yeah, I started around 1996 for independent publishers. It wasn't until maybe a year or two later when I started working for Marvel and DC at the same time. It just happened. It just kind of happened. And then when I was working for Marvel and DC at the same time, I was still doing a lot of independent books because I just thought comics were comics. And then, I was so lucky. I started, my first DC project was JLA. I thought, all comics were done that way. Everyone's just going to work on Batman, Superman, and that's how it is. And then ever since then, I've never had a project that was like the whole 7 core members. I worked on JLU, but that's like the animated version. And then
I did that too, man. I did covers for that for a year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So
and then my first work over at Marvel that same year was X-Force, inking Adam Polina. Adam Polina. And then from then on, it was like a consistent work all the time with Marvel and DC. And that's nice. But then I just didn't know that I was working on all these nice like titles and characters. It wasn't even like characters that we didn't really know of for Marvel and DC. It was just all good stories and like working with good writers. And I didn't even know it at the time. I just thought everyone just works on the same kind of stories.
One of the things that we do on the show is we occasionally will use a quote from the artist that we're blacklisting. Of course, in this case, it's Arthur Adams, one of the legends of the industry who we all love. And as I was telling you guys earlier, he's not like he's not like rife with quotes, like reading a Barry Windsor Smith interview where like every single line you're like, I can't believe he said that. he's just a very funny guy with a dry sense of humor.
Yes.
But so I actually ended up even watching a couple of video interviews with him, even though I've met him in person a bunch of times. The one that I found was a quick YouTube interview where he said, art can inspire people to try something they didn't necessarily think they can do. I'd like to hope that sometimes my work does that. And it's kind of true because you guys are in the industry. Has there been a more influential artist in the last 25 years than Arthur Adams?
For me, he's actually the reason why I'm working in comics. I'm sure Justin knows it already, but he used to run a comic book store in San Francisco. Did I tell you about that?
I didn't know that he ran it.
Yeah, he ran it with his then girlfriend, and I used to shop at that comic book store. And then I would see him every week, and he would bring me up. And once in a while, he would have artwork that he would FedEx to Marvel and stuff. And he would draw on the packages, on the FedEx packages. And then I asked him what that was, and he tells me that he works for Marvel Comics. And then he would have his little closet back there, and it's covered with a curtain, not even a door. It's a curtain that separates one room. And then when you peek in there, you see his drawing table. And then he would give me samples of his pencils, and then I would ink over that, because I didn't know what an inker was before I met Arthur. And then he would give me samples, and I would ink over it. And then like once a week, when I would go back to the comic book store, I would give him the samples, and he would give me new samples.
Cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I even saw Monkey Man and O'Brien. That's where I first saw Monkey Man and O'Brien, when it was just drawn on a comic book board. It was just, it was like stuck on the wall behind the counter. And I asked, "What's that?" And then the girlfriend, Grace at the time, said, "Oh, that's one of Arthur's creation." And it was just a monkey and a lady. I didn't really know anything about it. I said, "It's not even Marvel or DC. I don't know who those are." And then later on, she started working on Monkey Man and O'Brien, the comic book. I even saw the first. I think I have the first drawn poster of Hellboy too, because at the time,
Wow.
I know we're talking about Arthur Adams, but Arthur Adams and Mike Mignola are really good friends. And every week I would go to the comic store, they're both always there, and they're always talking about what they're working on. And just as the time when Mignola just released the Dracula miniseries.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and then later on they had a signing, and both of them had these prints for me. Arthur gave me a Monkey Man and O'Brien print, and then Mike Mignola gave me a Hellboy print. And then I didn't know what this character was. You know, it's just like this big, beefy red character printed on a print that he made himself. And I thought that was a really cool looking character. I still have it. On the poster, Mike wrote, "You knucklehead, Walden." And then Arthur wrote on his poster, "One of these days I'm going to kill you." This was before I was even working in comics. I was just a little guy buying comics at the store. But Arthur did help me a lot getting into the comic book industry, because without him, I didn't know what to do or where to go.
We almost all need one of those people, right? Because I had no clue. What's step one? Just like, what is step one? What is step one? There's no handbook. There's no entry level anything. There's no building you can walk into that.
This was before internet times too. Like before there was the internet. So I didn't really know where to go or who to learn from. There wasn't really YouTube for me to learn from others. So most of what I learned in the beginning was just purely from Arthur. And Arthur was like one of the nicest guys. He won't say this looks bad or this sucks or this is bad. He would say things like, "This is what I would do differently. This is how I would approach this area."
Good teacher, huh?
And then I remember every time he wears glasses. Like before I start, I didn't wear glasses. He would look at my work, take off his glasses, and he would examine it like really close. And then he would say, "Do this here, do that there." And then some of the tools I'm using, like these pins, they're the same pins that Arthur uses right here. These Staedtlers. Before I started inking, I was using repeatograph pins. Repeatograph pins, that's these pins right here.
What I'm doing.
So I was using this to ink everything, because I got these in high school, and I thought, inker, and this is an ink pen. I just use this to ink everything. I didn't know what a brush was, a quill, or what these were. But Arthur introduced me to these Staedtlers, and I'm still using it today. I mean, it's not the same piece that he gave me, but I'm still using the same brand. But I do notice that these microns works better than these. These are more fluid, where the ink just comes out really quickly. This one, it holds the ink a little bit better, so you can go in there and spend more time on the facial features.
It's one of the best deadlines ever in comic books are those pigment liners. I remember Mignola using them. Just basically that was his tool back in the day, the first time I worked for him. This is my favorite
mark. Oh, you
mark.
worked for Mignola. Did you work directly with him?
Yeah, twice.
Oh, the fiber.
Yeah, these are my favorite markers, man. I really like the ink on them.
They're pit pins?
Yeah. I think I saw Adam Hughes using them once, like in his office way back in the day, or something. I believe it was him in Studio Gaijin, and then they're so cheap, and I like it. I like the ink in them better. So
those are the same pins that Jimmy Chung likes too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I worked with Jimmy for a while, and then he would always talk about the Fiber Castels, the pins that you're using. I never actually use. I have a few, but I never actually use it as much as. I think these are the first microns that I started learning how to use, and I'm just more comfortable with these.
I understand, man. They're pound for pound. I love the line they put down better than almost any other marker out there. The pit markers are probably second for that, but I just like the ink. That was basically the deciding factor of it.
Oh, the ink that's inside?
Yeah, it's actual ink. It's India ink. So it handles when I do heavy like white inks and stuff like that. It just seems to handle how I abuse my pages.
Yeah.
It becomes pretty painterly at the end, and if I don't set it up right with the ink, sometimes like when I do splatters or fade, those pigment liners will actually start to bleed. It doesn't bleed; it just kind of spreads on the page a little bit. And where the pit markers don't, it kind of works a lot like more versatile rapidograph.
Yeah, I learned how to refill these microns.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I actually get a little X-Acto knife, and then I just cut here, and I just remove the tip, and I'll just add drops of ink like right inside of here. Yeah, actually,
Awesome.
one of my YouTube videos, the one that's most viewed, is a demonstration of how I refill them. So when I refill them, I just use my regular Speedball ink, my own ink, and I just refill it, and it still works.
Interesting. It's not too thick. That's the problem I always had with Speedball.
Yeah, you can use I use when I'm making, I use 3 different kinds of ink. I use Speedball. I also use a universal repeatograph ink. And
that's my favorite.
Magic.
Black Magic's nice, huh?
Yeah, but then I'll use them depending on what tools I'm inking it with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know how you use your inks, but when I use a Crow Quill, I'm using the Higgins. For the repeatograph color, I use that for the universal ink. I'll use it for these pins, and then Speedball, I just use that for dipping my brush.
Brush, nice and thick. Then, So the Higgins is nice and watery. So I used to like it with a nib, but as the paper I was using, it kept bleeding on.
Yeah, I find that the Black Magic Higgins is it thin for you, or is it thick for you?
Higgins, I would say it's a little on the thin side compared to what I like for all my tools. Nib is fine, but brush, like you, I like it
more
nice
fluid.
and just how it lays down is, you can like feel it. It's like glass or figure skating, or I don't even know the correct analogy. JC, come up with a better analogy for me.
Smooth like silk, baby.
There we go. That's why he makes the big bucks, folks.
Walden, you mentioned that somebody named Gracine worked at the store with him. Was that the person?
Yes.
Did she assist him on the on this comic that I'm about to?
Oh yeah, she did assist him. Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember reading the comic book, and then inside the credits there was like a assistant art on this. Yeah, Gracine.
Just for the so the audience knows, we're actually, this particular episode is focusing on art from his Fantastic Four run, which I've displayed an image from on the screen there, and you guys can see. It's when Walt had written it. Walter Simonson needed 3 months off to catch up, and so he asked Art to draw this for him, and Art drew this very, very, very quickly, I guess the legend is that Walt asked whoever was the editor at the time what were the top 3 or 4 best-selling comic books that Marvel was producing at the time, and they said, yeah, well, it's Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Hulk. Oh no, I think it was actually Punisher, but I think that Walt said, well, let's throw in Hulk instead. So it ended up being those 4.
Yeah, that was magic for me when I don't even know how old I was at the time, 8th or 9th grade, 8th grade that came out or something. And Yeah, that was magic for me, that book.
Oh, getting an Arthur Adams comic book every month for 3 months? I mean, that's
It was. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. But yes, it was ridiculous. It was Christmas once a month there for 4 months or whatever. It was 4 issues.
It was
there's one regret that I have when I was going to a comic book store. Arthur back then, he would work on these trading cards, and then I asked Grace, is there any artwork that I can buy from Arthur? And there was this trading card with Wolverine, those 4 characters the cover that you showed. Yeah, and then it was like about like this size. This size is drawn larger, and it was reduced to like a card. And then Grace said, "Oh, this is $100," and I said, "That's a lot of money for a little like a little kid. I couldn't afford it." But now, like, I wish I bought it. I wish I bought it.
Of course, right?
Every time I see that image online, I'm like, I couldn't.
No, the one that got away.
That's a guest home right there. You could have had.
Put a kid through college.
Yeah, I was reading through a lot of Art's interviews, and he's kind of funny. You know, we did a Frazetta episode a couple of weeks back, and the big thrust of Frazetta was he was like, I draw the prettiest girls, I draw the strongest guys. I just blast you in the face with pure power, and if you don't like it, screw you. And that's why I'm the best. And in a weird way, Arthur is kind of that way too. I mean, he every panel to me when I was a kid looking at his comics could have been a cover.
Yes.
I'm like, every single panel is cover quality. His heroes are the handsomest. His women are the prettiest. His rendering is the sharpest. And he kind of changed things. Everything was brushy like Sinnott, or kind of hatchy like Neil Adams. And then, Golden and, the Golden influence sort of came around, and Arthur Adams appeared and did long shot, and everything had this sheen to it. And, of all of the artists that are even still working to this day, is there anybody else's art that you'd rather just sit and look at? I just love looking at his artwork.
I can look at his art all day, literally. Yeah. Arthur did this drawing of a T-Rex chasing after, I think it was a monkey, or they're fighting or something.
Yes.
And I remember when it was first drawn, Grace actually had photocopies of it. And I went to a show. I was helping Grace out run like a comic and card show at a mall, and I was just sitting there. I actually sat there for a whole 8 hours looking at that piece, just looking at the foliage, the way it's drawn, and it was just amazing. Even now, I look at his work, and it's just the way he lays everything out and the way he renders. It's just amazing.
And that was around the time when he started to do the sort of hyper rendering.
Yes.
If you look at these Fantastic Four issues, they are rendered. They're hyper rendered for that time period. But then he switched gears. Sometime around that print came out, and went and just was able to absolutely turn it up to another level.
Yes, some of his commission pieces these days is insane. Like the backgrounds with all the cross hatching and hatching, it's
like 37 characters and it all works.
Yeah,
It's the staging. His staging has always been just unbelievable from the very first book I ever saw his, where even the anatomy and he hadn't quite figured everything out, but it still had this life to it that was very unique to comics at the time. And hell, to this day, but has a certain magic to it. But yeah, I agree that he's in that pantheon where you want to absorb every single thing he ever did. Literally everything, you can get your paws on. I remember as a kid, here's Gumby. I'd track down Appleseed because he did a cover for that. I'd do this. I was a fanatic, and he was the first artist I was ever fanatic over. Just fanatical. And another thing about Arthur Adams, he always made me want to draw. Yeah. Like the second I got a book of his, I'd go home, I'd read it. You get Godzilla, you run home, or hell, I was a little later, but whatever. You try to get home as fast as possible, and then he kind of like are trying. Okay, this is how he draws trees. That's kind of cool, you know.
Was there a point that you tried to draw like Arthur Adams, like mimic his style?
Oh yeah.
Oh, when I was young, and you can still see it. I think I told JC my hands are the number one place you can still see Arthur Adams in me, because he is the first I think I told him on the live cast. Where's my hands? There we go. He does the you know, the hand where it just all the finger. There you go.
Oh, like
he does this hand nonstop, and he does so many cool variations of fingers like that. He was the first person that really allowed me to kind of understand how to construct things that are dynamic. And two, the excitement he brought to the line and the staging obviously amplifies that tremendously.
And that was actually something that he credits Golden with. He said when he first saw Golden, that's when sort of a light switch went off, because he could kind of see the way that Golden was drawing, particularly in the later Micronauts issues.
Mm-hmm.
Everything became sort of more segmented. The muscles it was clear where one thing ended and another thing began, and nobody was doing that sort of hyper realistic musculature that Golden was doing. And Arthur Adams, he actually has an anecdote that when Micronauts came out, he went and bought a bunch of copies and brought them to school and showed it to all of his friends. He says, "This is what I'm going to do."
It's just interesting how art feeds on art.
Well, he's so influential. I mean, that's kind of like, that's his biggest legacy, I think, is that the huge, influence that he's had on the industry. I mean, without Arthur Adams, you don't have Todd McFarlane. Without Arthur, you don't have Jim Lee. You don't have Liefeld. There's a dozen. I mean, Campbell, Bradshaw. Yes. The list is
Bradshaw. I mean, he did
on. And in fact, there's a quote from Mignola, if I could find it here. It says, Mike Mignola says, "If Arthur wasn't such a flake, we wouldn't have needed Todd McFarlane." Which is very Mignola. It's a very Mignola quote. I mean, truly, from an influential standpoint, has there been anybody who has had so much artistic influence since Kirby or Neil Adams? I mean, really?
Of that generation, there's no argument. I'd say Arthur Adams. Jim Lee would be second, but he comes just a squinch past Arthur Adams, and then kind of shot past him like a rocket, because Arthur was hard to find there for a while, because for whatever reason, Walden, you'd know better, doing probably different projects and etc. So when he did have a comic come out, it was like finding a diamond in the rough. You just covered it like Gollum, run home.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have pretty much everything that Arthur worked on, every comic, because it's hard to, I mean, he doesn't really draw as much as he drew before. So anytime there's a cover or a miniseries or a few pages that he worked on, I just want to pick it up just to see what he's working on, like what he did.
Did you see the Guardians of the Galaxy issue?
Yes.
Where he didn't even ink it?
I actually looked at it 2 days ago.
Yeah.
just to look at it. But then that wasn't inked.
No.
The team, it was colored directly from pencils.
One dude bought the whole issue, Zitron, that Zitron guy.
Zitron?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's another guy that buys a lot of Arthur Adams stuff. Eric de Los Santos. I don't know if you heard of him.
I have not.
He owns a lot of Arthur Adams pieces, and he also used to help out at the same comic book store.
So, no kidding.
Yeah. He's a huge comic book art collector. He's been asking me to go over to his house and then just to look at artwork. I just haven't had the time. He's a very nice guy. All of it kind of, man, that this whole podcast is bringing me back a lot of great memories. Yeah,
you had a heck of an introduction to the business. Adams and Paul Smith. You kind of got the two biggest X artists in the world, in your corner.
The two biggest X artists?
Yeah, between Arthur and Paul Smith, you had the two biggest.
Oh yeah, Paul Smith. We should do another podcast on Paul Smith. I love that guy so much.
Oh,
We actually
Paul.
are going to do
Yeah.
another a podcast on him.
Yeah.
So-
yeah, we'll have you on for that one too.
Is he gonna be up? Is he gonna be on?
He's been so reclusive lately. He's not
Yeah.
even answering emails. Like I'm literally having to send him snail mail.
Oh, really? To communicate with him?
And you have to address. You have to on the envelope. You have to say deliver to the porch, or else they won't deliver it to him. It'll get returned to you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man,
He's the old man in the mountain now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he
I know,
only lives about an hour from me.
drive up to his house.
Yeah,
live.
I don't want to get shot at. But yeah, that'd be cool. Paul Smith. Yeah, Walden, you had a quite an intro, man. That's pretty cool.
Paul's the one who taught me how to use a brush. I met Paul. I don't know if I'm repeating myself. Stop me. I met Paul at a comic book convention when he was promoting his Leave It to Chance, and then I knew who Paul was because of his X-Men comic book work, and this was before I was working for Marvel or DC. This is right at the beginning when I was doing independent work. And then he was walking the hallways, and I thought, hey, look, Paul's walking right there. There's no crowds, no one standing in line, and he's holding a glass. I thought he was drinking wine at the time, but he told me later it's just grape juice because he doesn't really drink alcohol. So he was walking there with his suit, with his tie and everything. So I walked up to him and I said, Paul, can you look at my portfolio? Sure. He put down his drink. He looked on my portfolio. He looked at 3 pages, and he slammed my portfolio shut. And I said, oh, no, did I do something wrong? Maybe he hates my stuff. And then he goes, Walden, follow me. He grabbed my portfolio, and I thought, okay, maybe he's taking me to his booth at the convention. But no, he was bringing my work to all the editors at the convention at WonderCon in Oakland. And then one editor at a time, he goes, look at this guy's work. You need to hire him. And then after that, he would take me to an agency, like a comic book agency, to ask him to hire me. And they said, no, we don't really represent inkers. And then one of the guys that he introduced me to was Bob Harris. Bob Harris, he was editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics at the time. And I didn't really know who Bob Harris was because I was still new trying to get into the industry. And so he walked up to Bob and said, Bob, you need to hire this guy. Look at his work. So Bob looked at it and he goes, oh, this is pretty good. And then Paul left. And then Bob said, that's quite an introduction from someone like Paul. Here's my card. Give me a call in a week. So I called Bob Harris in a week. And just so happens he was talking to Jason Liebig, who was the main X-Men editor at the time. And they were looking for someone to ink the piece because they were falling behind. And that was like something where I was at the right place at the right time. And then I got my first X-Men work. Yeah. And then after that, Paul actually, he took one of my business cards. He called me. I was like, oh, man, Paul's actually calling my phone. I can't believe he called me. He goes, oh, so how did the thing go with Bob Harris? Yeah, I'm actually getting X-Men work. Oh, good. Would you like to work with me on a DC project? It was a Justice League JSA, Justice Society of America trading card. And then he sent me the card. It was FedEx. It was FedEx in a little 8.5 by 11 envelope, a FedEx envelope. And I started inking it, and I was so nervous inking over Paul. So I just inked it the way I inked it with the quill because all I knew how to use was the quill. When I was done, I faxed the image to, because back then we didn't have any emails or scanning or any of that. I had a fax machine, so I faxed my work to Paul. And then Paul looked at it. Walden, you're too meticulous. Can you work on it this way or can you work on it this way? So he started inking his own piece on a tracing paper, and he would fax it back to me, back and forth within that whole week with this one trading card. He was teaching me. He was actually teaching me how to ink the way he approached inking. So I learned a lot. He was sending me step-by-step images of one of these Conan characters that he inked, and also that Justice Society of America. By the time it was done, that whole JSA trading card was completely finished. And I said, Paul, you actually inked this whole piece yourself. Why don't you just turn this in and then you get credit for it, you get paid for it? And then he said to me, this project wasn't about me getting the work done. It's about you learning how to do the inking. I want you to learn, and I still want you to turn what you have in so you get credit for it. Because he knew that I was like a new guy, and he wanted to help me out a little bit. So I asked him, Paul, why are you doing this for me? I mean, you could. I mean, it's not like you didn't have time and you can finish that yourself. He said, well, when I started out, Paul said this. When I started out, there was, I forget who the artist he mentioned, but there was another artist that went in there and helped him along the way. And he said, if I ever make it, I want you to help others along the way. So this is what I want to do for you. So when you make it, you can help, bring it forward and help others along the way. Man, Zach, that looks great.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
But first, great story. People that, man, there's little heroes in people's lives that they'll never understand whether they have the intent or not, what they did for you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's awesome to hear one of those stories, dude, that Paul Smith just gave a little bit of himself away and it transformed you into the beast you are now. That's wonderful. Or at least ignited the journey, right?
Yeah. Paul actually contacted me to do that trading card. He also contacted me later on to do a one of these X-Men pinup for a Marvel comic. I forget the name of that character. She's like part of the underground in the X-Men group. Morlock, yeah. This is later with the eye patch, with the vest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what her name is.
I can't remember the name either.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then later on, when the Spirit opened up, Paul contacted me, asked me, Walden, would you like to ink me on the Spirit for DC Comics? Well, I the Spirit. So that was, I've been very lucky working with Arthur. Being able to work with him was full circle. Being able to work with Paul, that was also full circle. So earlier, like when I was inking this out, I was filling in all the black areas first. And usually when I ink, I actually use a brush and I'll do like majority of the outlines. But I'm trying to ink this like the way Arthur would ink it with these pens. So he likes to taper all these lines and all these crosshatch lines by using this, which takes a little bit longer. So I'm trying to mimic his style. I remember when I was working with Arthur, I was going to his house, or he would come to my house, and then we would swap pages. Because when we were working on the Hulk, he was living in Walnut Creek, and I would drive over to his house, which was about maybe an hour, or he would drive over to San Francisco, and he would come to my house, or we would meet up at a restaurant, and we would pick. Actually, I would pick more of his brain. He doesn't actually pick my brains because I wanted to ink the way he inked, and then he would show me, this is what tools I use. This is the size I use for this one. And I remember he would give me a whole box. That tells me how much he goes through, because I had the one pigment pen. I could ink the whole page, but I think he can go through like boxes and boxes of these. So when I'm inking it, I just learned so much from him.
Is this page right now?
I inked that page. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, there's a good story behind this one too. Okay, so when I was inking the whole 4 issues with Arthur, and then when it came time to art returns, Arthur is such. This is so funny. I went to Arthur's house, and then Arthur said, "Okay, we're gonna do art returns. We're gonna split the art." And I said to Art, "You can just give me whatever pages you want. It doesn't matter to me. I'm happy with any pages." And then he goes, "No, we'll make it fair. How about this? We'll write numbers of the pages and put it into a hat." He actually wrote little numbers and folded up in like little wads and then just put in a hat. And we were picking one. He would pick 2, and I would pick 1. He would pick 2, and I would pick 1. When I picked that page, I actually got that page that you showed. I actually own that page. Yeah,
cool. and then that's
Arthur
ridiculous.
Goes, wow, that you got a good one. And then Joyce in the background goes, "Wow, that's a good page. You lucked out." He goes, "Yeah." And then when I got it, I was so excited. I said to Arthur, "You know what? I'm okay. If you want this, you can keep it. I know it's more valuable, but if you want it, you can keep it." He goes, "No, you picked it, so it's yours." It was just like, oh, no big deal to him. But to me, it's like the whole world.
Meant the world, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Those little moments of magic that keep you motivated and ignited and, keeps you remembering why you're doing this, I guess.
Yeah, even like when that image appeared on my screen, it just brought me back to that moment. I was standing on this porch. There was all these puppies around me. I'm afraid of dogs. And then there was all these dogs. Joyce has like something teen dogs, like a lot of dogs. But at that moment, I didn't even care about the dogs anymore. It's just so awesome with Arthur.
Zach wants to draw Joe Fixit.
Is it the one where he's standing in front of the arcade?
And he's like has the vest on or whatever, and he's like upshot. I'd really like to try and ink Arthur with a brush and pen combo at some point. To see like with some of these containment lines, just to see what happens when you don't do that kind of modern pen line, to see what happens when you give that line a little brush English or something, you know?
I know working with Arthur, he likes his lines rough. Like I remember back then, I already worked with Paul Smith already. I was using repeatograph pins and a brush, not these microns. And then he liked the lines so smooth, but he liked that rough look. Like he even when he's tapering, he's actually drawing one line and then drawing another line. He's building upon it.
And you can almost tell that just by its final product. There's something going on there. So it's cool to hear you say that. I don't know. It's just interesting, and that's why, you know, Arthur Adams. It's really important for artists to kind of break the mold a little bit, and him be a pen artist in the age of heavy brush feathering. You know, production feathering. You know, just chopping that down with all those masters that could do that. So yeah, he kind of ushered in a new age of style. You know, whole nother spider web of possibilities, I think, with his decision making.
And then I think Milgram and Art inked the third issue, and then I guess he had to ink 2 pages in like he had like 15 minutes to ink the last 2 pages.
One of those jobs. Those are always fun, huh, Walden?
That's when you get like everyone in your family to go help out and finish the deadline.
Calling every friend you've ever worked with. Hey, what are you working on, buddy?
And this is kind of, I mean, again, it goes back to that old saying, you know, the face that launched 1,000 ships. It's like Arthur Adams, you know, his style and just the pure magnetism of his artwork launched 1,000 artists. I mean, look at that page.
Launched me, man. I never thought about drawing. I love Buscema, love Frazetta, all these guys like that. Ramita, Spider-Man. The second I saw Arthur Adams' artwork, and it may have been the time of my life, I immediately wanted to draw comic books for the rest of my life. You know, so that's magic right there. A person that can inspire people like that. That's a person who's found magic. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I never actually kept track of artists or writers until I met Arthur. Before, it was just buying comic books and buying it for the story and the characters. It wasn't until I met Arthur that I was like, okay, this is an inker, this is a penciler, look at the credits, and then start keeping track of who drew what.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, too. I didn't pay attention. I'd always look for, like, Buscema work, but that is about the only one. Arthur was the one like, okay, who's inking him? Because I like him when he's inked by this person. Oh, he's inking himself on this issue of Long Shot. Yeah. And it really made me pay attention. So it's pretty cool you say that, because I feel the same way.
And now he inks himself all the time.
Yes.
So if you've ever inked Arthur Adams, there will never be somebody else. Like you're the last of that crop. And I could probably
I think Will inked Arthur, Art T. Bear.
Yep.
Tim Townsend.
Yep.
Sandra Hope. I can't think of anyone else.
Bill Anderson.
Bob
Wyasak.
I'm sure Terry Austin did in the or the X-Men annuals.
Arthur says that his Bible is the X-Men Teen Titans team-up book that they did, which was Atkinson and Austin, but heavy on the Austin.
Well, Austin, as beautiful as line was, he really did dominate on that texture level.
Oh yeah,
which is seldom a bad thing. I'm not saying that. One of the neatest lines.
I heard there was a time when Terry Austin was like a superstar.
Oh yeah,
where people were buying comic books because of the inker Terry Austin.
That's rare, huh?
Yeah.
Well, according to legend, a Marvel artist said that he was talking to Shooter, and Shooter said that any cover that Austin inked automatically sold an extra 10,000 copies.
Wow.
I mean, and Terry inked everybody. I mean, there was even a Buscema cover inked by Terry. There was a Conan cover. I doubt it.
Really?
I don't know if that added to the cachet of that particular issue, but
I'd have to see it. That just sounds like chaos.
it was a little bit chaos. Although he inked Sal Buscema once on New Mutants, and it was pretty nice.
But Sal's chunky. He draws sectional stuff. You can still turn it into kind of lines. You can build lines off of it, rather than shape.
Also, later when he was doing the Johnny Future book for America's Best Comics, he had a kind of a little. I think Kevin Nolan actually inked one of those.
That's beyond cool,
right? But it looked like art. It looked like Arthur. I mean, he didn't Nolanize it really. And I'm trying. I believe it was originally supposed to be Bruce Timm who inked it, which would have been a really weird combination.
Can't even imagine. My brain just broke trying to think of that.
Bruce Timm inking Arthur?
Yeah. Arthur had drawn the whole issue like at the size of a comic book because that's how Bruce Timm liked it.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even draw it on big paper. He drew it on like small paper. And then Bruce Timm, got busy with something else, and they sent it to Nolan, and he was like, "What do you want me to do with this?" And then so for the second, Nolan, I think, inked 2 issues, and the second issue was closer to normal size, but still wasn't regular size paper. So
interesting.
He's got, and now he strictly inks himself. I think he said his favorite inker. This was before you had inked Hulk, by the way, Walden. Was I think he said that the one that got it closest to the way he saw it in his mind was, I think, Townsend inked those Authority issues.
Mm-hmm. When you brought up Townsend earlier, I was going to say he did a pretty darn good job of all the list of names you're going through. I have one of those Authority pages, and I've stared at it for countless hours. It's again, Walden. People that ink Arthur Adams and do it well like yourself, it's unbelievable, the achievement level of precision plus repetition plus flow plus it creates something magical, and it's almost like you guys are flexing a muscle for unknown hours trying to get it right.
It does take a little bit longer to ink Arthur's work than anyone else's work. I remember working on the Hulk. Every time I would be done with one page, the back of my hand here kind of aches. Because of the pen and the amount of details that's in there, it actually hurt. But it does take a little bit longer to ink Arthur's work.
Kevin Nolan has my favorite quote on that. He's like, "I'd rather be good than on time," or something to that effect. In his Modern Masters that I always love. I was never a speed guy, Walden. I did it for a bit. Like I'd pencil an issue of Nightwing, and then they'd have 2 issues of Batman ready for me or something like that. And I was getting pretty disillusioned being in the machine. I wanted to do something more akin to what I considered art and literature at the time. So my whole career, I've always had trouble fitting in, which it seems like Arthur Adams just rocked the world. And then yourself, you seem to be able to naturally bend for what is needed, which I always find just so fascinating. Style, deadlines, things like that. I have trouble letting go or not making or just getting things done. And that kind of doing that again and again in my career kind of, I think, ruined me a little bit for a while until I figured out how to, thrive within my own strengths and happiness. But I'm always amazed at people like you, and you do it very well, where you can bounce around and still thrive and do excellent work. And it always seems like magic to me.
Yeah, it's just staying at the drawing table and just doing the work. It's just staying there. And a lot of times when I'm working with artists, any chance I get, if I can talk to the penciler, I want to work as close as I can to what they want, to their style. So almost everyone I work with, I try to talk to them and then try to find out what they like in the inks, and I would approach it that style. And a lot of times I'll get a bashing. And I don't see that as a bashing. I see that as a learning process. Well, some artists, they will want certain things to be drawn a certain way or inked a certain way. And then I would just do it. And then I learn from that. And then it also helps me as an artist to learn as well. So it's not just, I know there's a lot of people that would just get kind of like upset because they would say, I don't like this, I don't like that. But then I see that as a way to learn. I'm still learning. I'm constantly learning.
You have an amazing attitude there. I used to go nuts when like I'd be drawing Batman and you just were just slaving over it. And then, an inker du jour that has to have 4 pages done in a day would come along. And that was always my problem, is just like, man, I put in the time. You're just hammering a paycheck. And it took me a while to realize there's room for everybody in this industry. You just got to find your lane and where that exists. But mine was definitely not the mainstream production. So when I see guys like you that thrive there, it's, again, you're like unicorns to me. I don't know how you do it.
Well, a lot of times, like if I can't finish a project, I'll just tell the editor. I mean, I can't finish it. I'd rather give up pages than to try to finish a page. The quality is more important to me than the speed of it.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, if you're open and you tell the editor that you can't do it, I mean, there's a good chance that you'll continue getting work. But if you hack the job and it looks bad, that could be your last job.
And it could also, I mean, if you tell an editor, hey, man, I am behind and I'm working hard or blah, 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 man, most of them, they're humans. They'll work with you usually.
Yeah.
There's obviously exceptions to the rule. But that being said, if you're honest, as long as, the next gig or whatever you do well or you've done well in the past, it's all good as long as you let them know, because then they can mitigate issues,
Yeah, so they can find someone else to help out with the deadlines.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot of times I'm the one who's helping out someone else's deadlines.
Yeah, you're a monster, man.
It may seem like I do a lot of work, but it's only like a page here and a page there. But there's a lot of credits with my name on it, but most of them is me helping out other people's deadlines.
I'd like a chance to at least do one. I mean, I'm doing inking Arthur, but like maybe recreate a cover of his or something, because I really would like to do some nice, heavy, chunky brushwork mixed with fine, like line hatching, and see how it looks.
Do you normally ink your own work, or you have?
Yeah, I couldn't do it anymore. So I do everything myself now. Yeah. Basically everything. I'm doing color notes. I'm psychotic. I have fewer books, but I don't know. I don't know. I found a little existence where there's a few dudes that like my crap, so it keeps me employed.
Walden, I do have a question that sort of just occurred to me, because the whole thrust of the episode is sort of, he says he hopes that his art inspires people to do something. Yeah. And you've been around in the business long enough that you've actually not just inked Arthur Adams, but you've inked people. You've inked Nick Bradshaw, who is sort of like almost like the son of Arthur. The
second coming.
Second coming of Arthur Adams. Like, how is that for you to have? You've worked with Arthur. You know exactly what Arthur wants things to look like, and then all of a sudden you get his biggest fan and also a terrific artist, on his own, totally separate from art. But with big Arthur influence there. Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, so that was so I was reading comic books, and then all of a sudden I see this guy that kind of draws like Arthur. So he was on Facebook. I seeked him out and I said, "Hey, Nick, my name is Walden. I like your work, and you kind of draw like Arthur. I was wondering, like, if you need someone to work with, because I like your work." And then he messaged me back and said, "Hey, Walden, I know who you are. I actually own one of your pieces on my wall, one of the Arthur Hulk pieces." Right. Let me talk to an editor, and then within a week, I started working with him, just like that. So a lot of people, they can tell lot of people can't tell the difference between Nick's work and Arthur's work. I can tell right away because I've inked both of the artists, so I can tell Nick's work immediately right after looking at it. Yeah, I think Nick Bradshaw over on Wolverine and the X-Men for a very long time. Like I don't remember how many issues.
I probably did a cover for you then, man.
Oh yeah.
I did a Death of Wolverine, a couple covers. I was gonna do the whole run, but I had a book called Wild Blue Yonder, just been optioned and development contract, and I had to go art direct that. So I ended up only doing 2 covers. Martz was pretty cool to me to let me go though, on friendly terms.
Yeah, I also worked. Yeah, the Death of Wolverine, right?
Yeah. He drew him with all. He has I don't know, like metal skin or some crap like that. Yes, I had to draw on the cover. So I didn't read the books. I'm sorry. I suck.
You did. You know, you're not the only one. I'm like that too. Some of the books I worked on, I don't really read.
It's like a donut factory. I always tell people it's fun for a while, but then after a while, you're like, the only thing I don't want is an effing donut. You know, you just I don't know. You see too many threads and know too many people and whatever the hell you're just exhausted, right? You're just okay.
Yeah, you just see like comic books as like another like reference material. Like
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like before when I was a comic book fan, I treasured the book. I put them in bags and boards. Now it's like I just put it here, like it's all over the place.
Yeah, dude, it looks like a hurricane every day. A new hurricane came through.
It goes back to there's another Arthur quote that he uses quite a bit when in interviews. You know, one of these interviewers says, I pose this question to all of the artists I interview. How do you overcome creative block? And Art, he's just so dry. He's like, I have a mortgage. Like, whether I'm having difficulty or not working, the bank still wants their money. I mean, it's just
they don't ask for qualifiers, do they?
No.
Walden's probably done this more than me. You do. You have to pay your bills, and this is your job, so you just show up. It's 4 a.m. You're listening to whatever the hell that you'll never remember, and you just go.
And Zach, Arthur was an army brat too.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So he's nice and insane.
Probably. He actually seems like maybe the sanest guy I've met in comics.
Oh really?
He's just like a very reasonable, friendly, smart, easygoing, funny guy. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if he's got corpses in the closet or something, but he's got to be just one of the nicest dudes you'll meet.
Yeah.
He is.
Those are every once in a while after, early in the industry and working with a few big guys, I made it a point that if I loved somebody, their work, I didn't meet them. I'd like walk away and leave the party or something like that, just because
why is that?
I got tired of dismantling shrines that I had up for these artists. They become too human for me, and then you see them grabbing on a waitress's butt or telling a lie or something like that. It just always broke my heart, and I got tired of that.
Yeah,
so,
I know what you're talking about. I know. Like before, I would like enjoy these artists' work, and then when you meet them in person, all of a sudden they're different than what you imagine them to be. It just changes your whole perspective of them.
It certainly can. Sometimes it's an amazing surprise.
You've been doing a lot of big projects, Zach. A lot. I mean, your name is almost everywhere.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully people aren't flinging mud at it since it's everywhere. But I bounce around. I took a Hasbro gig for, so I never really totally leave comics, even though I talk a big game. Because it's fun, man. If you draw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it'd be interesting if you get this, Walden, the kid comes out in me, I'm almost making sound effects when I'm drawing Spider-Man, it's like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm enjoying Spider-Man, So yeah, it's there's still that kid in there, and you gotta find him sometimes on these projects and let go a little bit and just have fun.
I have to say, you're definitely that Wolverine is really shining there, Zach. As I look at it, I mean, I think it's an improvement on the published version. Can you
shut your mouth?
Can you bring that up to the screen a little bit closer one more time? I just can't help myself. Sorry.
We'll go from here.
Yeah, dude. And the audience needs to know Zach just had his COVID vaccination, and so he's doing this in the cloud of. I'm
a little dopey, so I apologize to all the fans.
But it looks so good, man. Maybe you need some more vaccine. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, give me all 3 vaccines, right? I'll just drink vaccine cocktails. It's giving me superpowers.
Walden, Walden, can you pick yours up a little bit too?
Yeah, that's what I'm more interested in, how it's done the right way.
Oh, dude, that looks great.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if it's the right way.
No, that's awesome. Holy cow. That's it. And, the reason I picked that image was because I think, and I don't know, but that's the only Wolverine design that Arthur created.
Oh, really?
It's kind of like Indiana Jones Wolverine.
Oh, you're right.
And I don't think that. I mean, I've never known him to create a Wolverine costume that I'm thinking. I'm kind of racking my brain.
He might have for like something fun and goofy in an annual or something, like a fun character. But to your point, I don't think he's ever done like a legit, like, hey, this is what he's looking like for this series type thing.
Right. Yeah. And it kind of matches, it matches the Hulk. He's doing the Joe Fixit version of Hulk. So not everybody should be running around in spandex necessarily,
It was magical, man, that book. At least to me. It hit all the right notes for Arthur Adams. Had goofiness, Mole Men, Wolverine, the Hulk, Spider-Man. The Fantastic Four were barely in it. All the things I want in a comic book.
And then they tossed in, like at the last minute, they tossed in the Punisher for like one panel. He's like, it looks like I'm not needed. And then he leaves.
That was one of my favorite jokes of all time, because back then, Walden, or Kelly, we're all the same age. All it was the Punisher for a bit there. Right. You couldn't get away from the damn Punisher.
No.
So, and I remember this Punisher fan in my comic book shop pissing and moaning that making fun of, blah, 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 such a, that, how dare you do this to the Punisher? I don't know. He takes himself too seriously anyways.
Well, Art, later for a trade paperback, Art did this, sort of wide angle cover here, which he inked himself.
Oof. Yeah, you can tell. Yeesh. Yeah.
I mean,
look at those hands, man, on the Hulk.
That was a nice period for Art's work. I mean, that's the other kind of thing about Art, is that he doesn't stand still. I mean, if you look really his art if you look at his early X-Men and long shot stuff, it's totally different from the stuff that he did with, by the time he was doing Fantastic Four, and then it changed again later on with Johnny Future. And now he's still doing that sort of hyper rendered style that he uses now for his covers. But the thing that stays constant, it's kind of like, again, the Frazetta comparison. Frazetta doesn't matter whether he's got a pen in his hand, whether he's got a crayon, whether he's got a brush, whether he's doing oil. It's always the best pose, the best looking characters, the most powerful pose, the most beautiful women. I mean, all through his career, he's never lost that, and even the dog's feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, he agrees completely. Has no UPS is here, by the way.
Walden, don't worry, the dog is on the other side of the country.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. Maybe I should have said anything about the dogs earlier.
Yeah, I mean, Joyce has like a dozen dogs or something, right?
Yeah, like they're big, they're tall. I don't know the breed, but it's a lot.
They're called whippets or something, or whippets.
Whippets.
Well,
They almost look like greyhounds. They're skinny.
That's a
they're
whippet.
tall.
They're like miniature greyhound. They're not miniature greyhounds, but they look like miniature greyhounds.
yeah, Zach is a dog aficionado too. Is that the right word?
Sure. My wife's a vet, so it kind of comes with the territory, right?
Arthur Adams, in a lot of ways, is almost inker proof. I mean, his pencils are so tight.
Yeah.
Well, never
very
say
tight.
inker proof. There's some old inkers I worked with that have something to say about that. But
I wouldn't want to see Vinnie Coletta inking Arthur Adams. Let's put it that way.
that'd be interesting.
Well, that was Paul Smith's first published inker was Vinnie Coletta.
Oucharoons with Paul Smith's gorgeous, gorgeous, elegant line that he uses.
The whole point of Paul Smith's art is simplicity and like using the fewest lines possible and making them the right line.
Yeah,
And Vinnie Coletta is just the opposite. Is the total opposite of that. He's just like throw it down and send it to the printer.
Yeah, it's chop, 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 chop. Which I get it. There's room for that type of artist too in here.
Well, actually, but Smitty actually loves Coletta.
Yes, he does. He talks about him a lot.
He's a big Coletta. He's one of the few Coletta apologists that you'll find in the professional industry. But they're out there.
Well, again, there's room for everybody aesthetically, I think.
Well, I'm not going to lie. When I was a kid and I was reading like those Marvel Son of Origins and Origins books, that was my first exposure to Kirby. And I think I liked the Coletta inked stuff better than, I don't know, whoever inked Fantastic Four before Senate showed up.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument, I think. Again, I think he gets a bad rep too, but...
Wait, we got to take a break here. I think that Walden has finished a drawing and is moving on to drawing number 2, ladies and gentlemen.
How do you do that, Walden?
This has never happened on the Blacklist Underground. A complete image. Oh my God. And it's perfect. That looks great, dude. That looks great.
Stunning, Walden.
Oh,
love the backlighting. Your rim lighting. Man, you just got that Arthur Adams rim lighting down, don't you? It looks so natural.
So cool.
Good job on those fingers, too.
Oh, thank you. That was fun. This was a little bit hard because it's kind of muddy to see, but it was fun.
It was hard to, I had a hard time getting the lines separated because I didn't have the black and white artwork, so I had to do a bunch of Photoshop.
Did you draw some lines in there?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some of the Photoshop brushwork.
Well, I took one leg. He used the same pose twice. And
I see.
And so on one leg, part of the leg was covered by a word balloon, so I just Photoshopped the other leg on top of it.
Oh, that's smart.
Well, I know Photoshop, but don't hand me a brush or a pen. I'll make a mess of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I do inking, I always try to do all the template work first, just to get that out of the way. Like anything that requires a ruler or templates or stencils or
straight edge.
Are you like that too, Zach?
Yeah, sometimes, especially if I have like really inorganic objects, structural objects like buildings and things like that. I like to get that down because then that stiffness for whatever reason keeps me nice and organic on the actual characters and the acting and stuff. So
luckily for these two pieces, the only template work is just the claws. This one didn't really have any template work.
Yeah, maybe I should do one of the claws here. Actually, I'm going to finish his shirt. Sorry,
Zach,
Arthur. Oh, sorry, what?
A couple of other Army brats you didn't know about. Ed Brubaker, Army brat.
Well, there you go. Is he insane?
He's totally insane. He's a great writer, though.
Yeah, he is a great writer. He's working with Sean Phillips, right?
Love those guys. They do the Criminal series. And
it's unbelievable.
It's hard to put down. I send that out. When I have friends who say I don't know what comic to read, I send them that graphic. And Kelly Sue DeConnick was an Army brat.
So
it's you, Arthur, You Arthur Elliott, are you Arthur, Ed, and Kelly?
Well, kudos to all of us for surviving. Oh man. Now I feel the pressure, Walden, making me ink faster.
You never know. I mean, this might take me longer, this piece.
I'm willing to put money down.
So Zach, the vaccine knocked you out, huh?
Yeah, well, I had a few health issues that it aggravated too, so I'm just kind of a little goofy here. So I apologize. My normal fart and poop and dick humor. I'm a little slow today, everyone.
Was it the first shot?
Yeah, I got my first shot. Yes.
Okay.
Walden, have you gotten one yet or no?
Yeah, I got both shots already.
Oh, yeah,
the
you got
first shot.
Yeah,
the first shot's just like a bruise, but the second shot was a doozy. Second
yeah?
one, second one, I had chills, I had headaches, I couldn't sleep, I was tired, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I've heard most people it's been the second one. My problem is I'm immune compromised though, so I can't take my meds while I'm doing the shots. So I'm just kind of F for the next 3 weeks. I just gotta suck it.
You just gotta take it. I think my favorite thing about the Fantastic Four issues that Arthur did was his portrayal of the Skrulls.
Yes.
Look at this face. Check this out. Look at that guy.
Yeah, ridiculous. Well, that was one of the things he always seemed to have. Arthur Adams made everything fun and exciting, which not every artist can do. But Arthur, for whatever reason, no matter what he's doing, it's always fun and exciting.
And then look at these Skrulls. Wow. Look at those Skrulls.
The attitude on those faces.
Yeah, they're so emotive and so animated. They're just so fun. Oh, so yes, I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little dopey here.
No
JC
worries.
has no excuse for his dopiness, but me, I'm fully excused today.
I had like a 10-minute window before we started the podcast. I put on a ton of weight. When I had COVID, I was stuck in a hotel for a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden my pants weren't fitting anymore. And like, there's something stupid about men, like where it did, like my pants weren't fitting, but it didn't occur to me that I was putting weight on. But now I've been on this quasi diet, so now I'm down to 200. And so like for 10, I did 150 push-ups just before the show.
Yeah, I heard that. I logged in. I was like, "What are those huffing and puffing?"
Oh, you could hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that's hilarious, man.
Yeah,
I've done weeks like that, man, where you got to make sure you get that time in. And Walden, I just feel my body starts turning into a herdy version of the letter C if I don't work out enough after being hunched in a chair for 14 hours.
Oh yeah,
a day. It's just so important. You just got to get your time in, otherwise you start looking like
away from your drawing table after a little bit. You can't sit there for the whole time.
I agree. I've learned to take breaks, like go out with the dogs and throw the ball just a few times, like 10 minutes sometimes is all it takes.
Yeah. I saw your show, the live one on Facebook.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that was nice. That was the first time I saw it. Yeah, that was nice. It just showed up. I just turned on the computer. It was a pre-recorded piece. It wasn't live, but it just popped up right on the first page.
Awesome.
I think it might have been live. Was it the one?
It was live, and then now it's just out for, everyone's consumption.
Yeah, when I watched it, it wasn't live because I could scroll around.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make our shows more interactive. Like this one is reviewing legends with badasses like yourself and celebrating them. And then the other show we do is just me and my assistant working on whatever we're working on, making, dick jokes, etc.
Walden Did Arthur ever talk to you about his influences? Because I've been reading all these interviews.
I know he likes Paul Smith a lot. When I told Arthur that I was working with Paul Smith, he was all like excited about it when I was working with him at that time. But for influence, I don't know what other influence he has.
My research. He lists a bunch of names. Windsor Smith comes up.
Okay.
I'd say Barry's stuff is painterly, where Arthur's line and shape oriented.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Cool.
But I would say, and he actually, going through the archives here, he lists Kaluta as one of the guys that he liked back in those days.
I think he mentions him in his Masterpiece edition too.
Does he?
Yeah, I think so. If I remember correctly. And
Bernie Wrightson is on the list too, and I can't see.
Yeah, I don't see Bernie Wrightson.
The organics. Yeah, Bernie's, but you never know. It's but yeah, to your point, it's tough to see that influence, but that's the interesting thing with influences is sometimes it's so obvious and other times they're like, I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
Because who knows what's going on in that person's brain that's clicking with that style or artist or whatever, what they're actually teaching them. So it's kind of intimate. So it's hard to know sometimes.
And he mentions Sienkiewicz too. He says,
interesting.
Yeah. Well, Sienkiewicz actually went on to ink Arthur. He did that famous, I think it was a New Mutants cover where
yes,
White Queen is kind of holding the New Mutants by strings or something like that.
Yeah, that was just after Sienkiewicz's run or something. I can't remember. And rusty people.
And also Sienkiewicz inked Arthur Adams on a Firestar cover, if memory. Remember that?
Cool. Yes.
All right. See, that's why
it's been forever.
That's why it's important that we're all within 2 or 3 years of each other, because we were all hanging around different dorky comic book stores,
buying the same comics.
Yeah, arguing over Wolverine's claws or some crap.
But do you remember seeing by the time I was not necessarily collecting but hanging around in the comic book store, Longshot was long finished, so it was already bagged and too expensive.
Yeah.
But don't you guys remember seeing those covers and being like, what the fuck?
Just the first cover, I just blew my mind, and then it just got better every damn issue, I swear.
It really did. And then he went with the whole white cover with She-Hulk and Spider-Man on it.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing that. Who did it? Who was doing a whole white cover with just those, with three, perfect.
Wait, who's this? Arthur?
Yeah. When we were talking about don't you just remember the first, when you'd see an Arthur Adams cover on the shelves at the comic book store when you were a kid? It's like a nuclear experience. I mean, it was a quantum level better than everything else next to it.
Anybody who can make Gumby that fun and dynamic has some sort of magic happening within them, I think.
It was in my pile. I had Gumby.
I'm buying Gumby comic books for F's sake,
And then everybody was drawing, Arthur would draw a mouth that way, and then you'd turn around and there'd be 6 other guys drawing that mouth. I remember when Leafield was drawing Hawk and Dove, and then I opened up the Hawk and Dove comic, and he used the same mouth on every figure on every page.
Imagine that. Yeah, he taught me how to do 3/4 shots for the first time. That's another thing Arthur again, he did it in a way you could understand what was happening because the shapes were so well drawn, and the lighting was so realized, et cetera, et cetera. And, I don't know. It was so neat to see him evolve too as an artist.
And, he's going through inkers. By the final one that he did, he had Dan Green was inking it because Dan Green
the heavy brush inker, right?
And still, it looked great. It looked great. Some of those pages came up for sale recently. I think even Dan Green even inked Maduera, who we forgot him. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but he is another, Arthur Adams acolyte. His was the most Arthur Adams type
Early
style.
on, he did a Marvel Comics Presents that I bought it thinking it was Arthur Adams.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah, I think it was his first
Joe
work. He
Madureira?
even saw young Jay Lee in it. It was a crazy issue. But yeah, he looked like Mojo's chopping celery and things like that. It looked exactly like Arthur Adams. That dude had it down. And the crazy thing about that, you could tell it was obviously a learning process emulating him, because then it wasn't short after that. He just became a monster and was doing like Deadpool and stuff like that. And you could tell, okay, this guy's way different than everybody else.
Walden, have you inked Joe?
No, not Joe.
I was not expecting that answer.
I think that Joe kind of left comics before I went in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Video games, right?
Yeah, he worked on X-Men, he worked on Deadpool, and then after that, I think he left comics and started working on video games. I mean, he came back and did Cliffhanger, but then that was before my time, actually.
Yeah, he had that Sword and Sorcery series, Battle Chasers. And that was inked by Mcnerney, who used to draw Roach Mill back in the 80s when we were kids.
Another really good slick inker, man.
Really good inker and a great artist, period. Madureira. Am I pronouncing that? Joe Madureira? Does that sound right?
Well,
No.
I don't know. Yeah, I call it Madureira. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right either.
Madureira?
That's how I do it too, Walden, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
I've never met him or been introduced, so that's usually how I find out. I just shut up until somebody introduces me that knows that person, then I'm like, okay. Like Sienkiewicz. I had to be introduced.
I was just about to say that. I used to pronounce Bill Sienkiewicz as Bill Siekwitz.
Yeah,
I did. Sinkovich is what I used to call him. Sinkovich.
I call it Siekwitz.
Yeah, Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, I got lectured early on. I did an early book, an anthology with him, and I had to learn his name before I went and embarrassed myself in front of him.
Well, he did a really nice thing for fans. Like if you go to his booth, it just says Sin at the top, Ken in the middle, and Vitch at the bottom.
Yes.
But that actually kind of brings up an interesting point. Like of all of the artists who had the influence of Arthur Adams, like if you talk about Buscema, or you talk about Kirby, or you talk about Neil Adams, I think are probably, and then later on Jim Lee, are probably like those are the guys with the most acolytes. The most people, the most artists who Neil Adams off the top of my head, Tom Grindberg and Sienkiewicz started out as a Neil Adams clone, basically, when he was doing Moon Knight. But nobody has produced as many artists, who emulated their style, who also went on to match the success of the artists they were imitating.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree. I think he's number one because, again, you got Jim Lee, you got J. Scott Campbell. The list literally never ends.
I hadn't even thought of. I'm just gonna say Joe. I hadn't even thought of Joe because I just, he wasn't. But I'll be damned, and I never bought Image books, but I'll be damned if I didn't buy his.
Yeah.
Because it was just beautiful artwork to look at. There was enough Arthur Adams in there that it was worth plunking down a couple of bucks.
Always, I think. So that's an interesting point you bring up. His influence seems to be a little different than, to your point, guys that were only Gil Kane or Kniff. Right. There'd be superstars, but the amount of people that were coming out through an Arthur Adams book that were amazing it's unparalleled.
Look at Walden's run with Nick Bradshaw on Wolverine and the X-Men. Walden, I don't think I missed an issue of that.
Yeah, those again, like a few times I was falling behind, and then they got other inkers come in and help out a little bit. Yeah, just because. So when Nick was drawing his pages, his 11 by 17 was actually this size, like 8.5 by 11. So he drew it 8.5 by 11, and he would send me the file, and it would be blown up to 11 by 17. So all his original art in pencils, they're like the printer paper size, but the original ink art is much larger. So
there's a lot of people I've seen work variations of that, to varying degrees. It's interesting that he does that. It makes sense though with his structure. You can really do that, can't you?
But actually, Walden, weren't you kind of instrumental in getting the artwork back, the blue line?
Yeah. So back then I was working on this project of Marvel Adventures, and one of the pencilers was sending me blue lines. So he FedExed me blue lines, but then he called it actual pencil drawings in blue because he wanted the artwork back. So I talked to Marvel, and then Marvel said, no, these are originals. No, it's not originals. If you take an eraser and you try to erase those blue, it's not going to come off because those are printed on. And then the penciler, he just wanted some of the art back. So I said, if I have to share 1/3 of this blue line, can I get 1/3 of the original pencils back? I mean, just to be fair. And he goes, no, not. So I spoke with Joe Quesada, and Joe actually said he took an eraser with the art returns department and tried to erase some of the blues, and none of it was coming out. And then that's when they found out that that penciler was like not telling truth. And then and then from then on, before I came on board, even blue lines were split between pencilers and inkers. So a penciler drew everything and sent it out as blue lines. Inkers only get to keep 1/3. But after all that fiasco happened, because it also made it into a Bleeding Cool News. Right. Because I posted it on the Inkers group on Yahoo. And then now when people are doing the blue lines, the inkers, they get to keep the whole portion of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but back then, sir. I remember all these other inkers contacting me. They were saying, keep your stance. Make sure you fight for all of us. I remember Danny Mickey, Jimmy Palmiotti. They were all messaging me privately. Good on what you're doing, because I guess, I don't know.
It's been an issue, right?
Yeah. But now it's all taken care of.
But that takes a lot of courage because, unless you're under contract with a company, you're a freelancer, and if they say, "Oh, well, this guy's too much trouble to work with," you might not get a call next week. You know what
true.
I mean?
See, I didn't post that to make a fuss. I just posted it in the Inkers group just to find out what other people's opinion on it. And it just so happens that Rich Johnson, the guy who writes for Bleeding Cool, he got wind of it and then made that an article. And then when that became an article, Marvel got a hold of it, and then everyone started calling me. Even the art department, C.B. Sabluski also called me. And then he said, he said, we're going to find out what's behind this. And then later on, they found out that it was real. And then I remember CB contacted me back saying, Walden, we're going to send you back the artwork. Can you please tell all your inker friends that you're giving back the artwork and making it all cool again?
Wow. I mean,
awesome, man. Changing the way things work. I didn't
actually make that post to make a big deal. I was just asking other inkers, did you guys get to keep your blue lines, or did you have to return it? And then it just became a snowball.
Well, it always takes somebody to break the chains, and set people free.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting. Now inkers are getting the blue lines back. Some collectors, they don't really like to collect artwork that's blue line. They rather have art that's inked on the original pencils. They see blue lines as less valuable.
I've never had that issue, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're inking your own work, I mean, it's good. But if you're inking someone else, they will say, okay, since this Arthur Adams piece isn't the original and you're inking on blue line, we're gonna offer you a lower price or something like that.
That's pile of crap.
I was looking at Gary, the late Gary Algonquin. I'm probably murdering his name, but he inked a lot of Lionel Yu.
Oh yeah, Gary Alanguen.
Alanguen, okay.
Yeah.
So he was. I loved his inks. He was really good, and he inked a lot of Lionel's work. And his widow has a bunch of his artwork for sale on the on her. She's got just a little website, you know, where she's selling the
nice.
stuff. And it's beautiful, and it's the published work. I mean, that's the work that showed up in the comic book. But the prices are a lot different.
Higher or lower?
They're lower. I mean, they're really steals. I mean, it's I didn't pull the trigger on any of them just because I'm trying to pare down. I'm trying to shrink my collection down to just the essentials at this point.
Yeah, you wouldn't even take free artwork from me.
No.
That's a nice Judge Dredd back there.
Oh, thank you, man.
Nice contrast.
Yeah, Zach drew a few issues, didn't you, Zach?
I did a cover run.
And
then a few nice high-priced commissions.
There you go.
So he's one of the characters people I always sign every show. They tend to come up. Okay. I figured out a way to attach this damn thing. Let's see if it's the... Whoop. Ha-ha! 2% left. I just made it.
Dude. And I drink another, and we're back.
And we're back.
Okay.
There we go. I'm just about to finish up his claws, and then I think I'm gonna do some splatter and some fun stuff you normally don't see on Arthur's stuff. Never show him I did this. I will deny everything.
Well, I mean, I think about that. You know, we forgot an inker who inked Arthur. Klaus Janson inked him once.
Oh, really?
Klaus inked him on a Daredevil cover. Remember that Daredevil issue where Sabretooth is jumping towards Daredevil?
Oh, yes, that's right.
That was Klaus.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm doing a deep dive here in my mind of because you know, you mentioned the splatter, and I'm trying to think of people who tried to put a little spin on Arthur's work over the years. There was that. Oh, and of course, as I said, Sienkiewicz inked a couple covers, and there was one cover where Windsor Smith inked Arthur Adams. But anyways,
that's the one where Storm is holding Dazzler on the neck, right?
That's what it is.
Yeah, I think Paul inked that.
Well, no, it was Windsor Smith.
Windsor Smith.
And there's a story, and I'll totally bastardize this, but if Arthur ever wants to come on here and chat, I'll see if I can get Arthur for the Paul Smith episode. I can't remember if Windsor Smith or one of his people like dropped the cover off at Arthur's table, like at a convention, and Arthur said something like, "Oh, I'd love to be able to repay you sometime," and then Windsor Smith was like, "Yeah, whenever you learn to draw." And
shit.
And Arthur just took it. He's like, "I'll take that. I'll take it." And he told me he still has the cover.
Oh, that's great. I would get a card with that made on it and hang it up.
Yeah. And Windsor Smith has actually got a new comic book coming out.
Really?
What?
It's
I
like,
didn't even know he was doing anything.
Dude, it's like 300 pages. It's called Monster, and he's been working on it in secret for 16 years or something.
When is it coming out?
It's already been solicited, so they're just waiting probably for the end of the pandemic or whatever.
Who's publishing it?
I think it's Fantagraphics.
Fantagraphics? Wow.
Well, it'll be beautiful then.
But my buddy bought a couple of Weapon X pages off of him for like $40,000. This was a long time ago. And he was like, my buddy was like, "Hey, listen, would you draw a sketch for me? You know, just to seal the deal." And he was just like, "Nope, I don't do that." He's like, "I'm writing you a $40,000 check, dude.
You can't even draw a quick little Wolverine head in the corner or some shit."
Wouldn't even draw Casper the Friendly Ghost. Nothing. But I'll be pumped if he actually goes out and tour, goes out and does signings and stuff. Because Windsor Smith doesn't live that far from me.
I met him once, and that was super cool for me.
No kidding.
Yeah. Is that MegaCon, that first convention I said I got dragged to? I walked around the corner. He was sitting at a table by himself like gonna do a signing for, or just finished a signing for, Company X or whatever. Just sitting there, and I just walked up and shook his hand, said I loved his stuff. He said thanks, and he looked like he had kind of Mozart hair.
Yeah.
It was just white, and he looked insane, and it was awesome. And
How was he dressed?
I think he was in like just a jacket and just a nice, what you expect from his generation. Sports coat, button down shirt, but he had the Mozart hair. just looked like he got electrocuted.
There was a Joe Sinnott. I don't know if it was Sinnott's birthday, like 90th or 100th birthday or something like that.
Yes, he dressed as if he was in a Renaissance fair. Or something, right?
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that too. That's why I asked how he was dressed.
He's an odd cat. I mean, I spoke to him maybe for 2 minutes, and I was already like, okay, I don't know what to say anymore.
You should read his Opus books. It's like the whole thing's like a mushroom trip.
Yeah, that's for certain.
I mean, he's talking about time travel, and it's just crazy.
Or hyper rendered, and it's nuts.
He's a stud. But anyways, I want to, if I can meet him, that would be. I'd put that on my bucket list. I don't have much of a bucket list, but Barry Windsor Smith fits in there somewhere.
He he was very nice to me. He's a famous character, so you hear all sorts of stuff. But all I know is he's one of the baddest motherfuckers I've ever seen draw.
I guess he wasn't that popular in the studio. Like he was in the studio with Wrightson and Jones and Windsor Smith and
Michael Couture.
Yeah, Kaluta.
Yeah, Kaluta.
And I heard he just wasn't the most popular guy in the studio.
Well, he was super passionate, and people trying to make money sometimes within a system don't like the people that are constantly harping about perfection and artistic expression and storytelling, etc. Plus, if he had that strong personality, I'm sure occasionally it rubbed people the wrong way, right? Well,
I mean, he's just one of those guys. He's another guy like Arthur Adams, who just, you just love to look at his artwork. I don't know why. A lot of it has to do with that chaotic line work that he was using, with that. He had that Easterbrook nib that he was so famous for using. And I've mentioned before, like, he stopped using the Easterbrook at some point, maybe after Valiant or something. Unfortunately, but it might be a quality thing, man. I've had to stop using tools because of quality. Could be, but Neil Young. I like to. Zach knows I like to make musical comparisons. Like, I've always thought that when he used that Eaglebrook, it was like Neil Young when he uses his guitar. It's called Big Black, and he does like the like. Just nobody can do it like Neil when he's got that guitar, and nobody can draw like Windsor Smith when he's got that Eaglebrook. I mean, it's just nobody's ever been able to even replicate it.
Yeah, he'll double up lines and stuff that don't even. I'm like, he's like a Renaissance master to me, at least. Yeah. That's how I view his art.
I do too, and he's a good writer too, a great storyteller.
That's what got him in trouble with X-Men.
Was that the deal? He was putting in too much story.
I think he wanted like these deep stories that he was doing, Wolverine when he's all fucked up in the snow, those types of things. And I think that doesn't always fit into production brand mindsets.
Yeah.
And I don't know the history, so I can't speak to it, but I suspect that's set up for a lot of uncomfortable situations when people are just trying to get their work done within a system. And I know how much it messed up my career, and I'm only one millionth, as talented as him. So, I can't even imagine. I don't know. I have no point of reference, but I can imagine that being an issue.
Well, there are entire Windsor Smith stories that sat in Jim Shooter's drawer.
Literally.
Windsor Smith would show up to the office. He'd be like, "Here's my story. Take it or leave it." And a couple of times they left it. And
that Astra story was supposed to be.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. At Astra in Africa.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. What's her name? Storm. Yeah. That X-Men lady.
I have that book. It's beautiful.
It's unbelievable. I stare at like an orange tree for hell. It's been years now. I'm staring at an orange tree for years.
But that again, that's after he stopped using that nib. If you look closely, a lot of that is just, I don't know if he's using rapidograph or something else.
No, it's a nib. It's just probably not the Eagle Brook, but it's definitely nib work, 100%.
And then he just became progressively looser, as he got into his storyteller books. I mean, he was doing, a lot. He was putting out a lot of pages every month.
It was way more open. Sorry, whoever I cut off.
But I still loved it. I mean, I'll take Barry Windsor Smith. I'll take a half an hour Barry Windsor Smith drawing, and I'll take a 5-minute Barry Windsor Smith drawing. He's everything. I mean, he just farts good artwork. He's just great, no matter what.
He is the best artwork farter I've ever met. I can say this.
That's how I'm gonna try to get him to draw me a picture. I'm gonna send him that quote.
Hey, bro, you want to put some artwork out for us?
The BWS, the Barry Windsor Smith artwork farting.
BWS. I remember when I first started inking, I saw BWS over all the artwork.
Yeah.
I used to think, maybe just, it's supposed to be black with stars, right? When I'm inking space.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And every time I get pages and it says BWS, I would think, hey, I'm taking
black
all Barry Windsor Smith work. Yeah,
I was confused. I was just opposite. The first time I got that, I was inking JLU or something like that. And I remember all these I had to write the editor, what does BWS mean? Is he just shouting out Barry Windsor Smith, Barry Windsor Smith, Barry Windsor Smith all over the sky? He's just praying to Barry Windsor Smith.
I thought I was helping out Barry Windsor Smith on the inking chores. Am I as good as Barry Windsor Smith?
Shadow inking Barry.
Barry shadow inked a few pages of X-Men Alpha Flight for Smitty. I don't know, Walden, if I ever sent you those pages, but they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Wait, was this for X-Men Alpha Flight?
Yeah, because Wyasek was behind or Smitty was late or who knows what. Like, did you know the story behind that one where, like, Smitty wanted to buy, like, this new BMW motorcycle?
No.
And, and they were like, I think they asked him if he would do. Originally, Byrne was supposed to do X-Men Alpha Flight, and he got busy with something else. And they were like, "Well, we'll call Smitty." So Smitty's like, "Oh, this story we can't fit this story into a single annual. It's got to be a double annual." Because he knew that he needed X amount of money to buy the motorcycle. And they were like, "All right, if you say so, Smitty." And so he extended the thing into 264 pages so that he would have enough money to buy the motorcycle.
That's funny.
Yeah, he was
That's
smart.
Great.
He was a smart cat. But anyway,
he's always into his like Harley Davidsons.
Big time.
No, was it Harley? No, I think it was BMWs, right?
He had a BMW motorcycle at that time. I don't know if he's still riding. I was at his house like the last time I was in Colorado, and I saw Zach. And there were a number of vehicles in the driveway, but I can't remember if there were any motorcycles sitting around out there.
Sorry, everyone.
Well, that Wolverine's coming to life over there.
Oh, Walden's? It's beautiful, huh?
No, yours.
It's gorgeous.
Oh.
Well, yours had a little earthquake. Yours was literally shaking, so that was sort of exciting.
I shook the earth with my inking prowess.
Yeah, no, Walden's is also an improvement on the actual cover, I think. I mean, not to insult whoever inked the original cover, but what are you gonna do?
Maybe Art Tibier inked the original cover.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I loved him on his Superman stuff. Those were my favorite. He was always my favorite inker on Dan Jurgens in those days, because it kind of gave it a little bit of a technical feel.
Yeah. I always call Tibier the godfather of inking. Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
yeah. He seems like he teached a lot of other inkers, and then like he started out doing the crow quill compared to everyone else. Everyone else was doing the brush, and then he was one of the first guys that started using a crow quill, and he made that Hunts 102 popular.
Yeah, I know that because he introduced me to it. In fact,
No kidding.
So, Sean Murphy and I sat next to him back when we used to work together at a show, and he just took a shine to us. Like he had this crew of 2 other people, I think, and yeah, just always fun rubbing shoulders with studs. But that being said, he did come off like a really good, enthusiastic teacher.
I feel like I met him at a New York con when I was a kid, and I think he was with Continuity. Like
That sounds right.
going way back.
Because that actually sounds right. Because back at the MegaCon days, I think he was with old Neil, at least at one of the shows.
Yeah, they kind of were showing me, I was just a kid, and they were showing me how the production line worked over at Continuity. It'd be like, yeah, this guy blocks it out and draws in all the figures and makes sure all the proportions are right. This guy finishes it so that there's all the details, and then it goes to Neil and he redraws all the faces. I mean, there was an issue of Toy Boy, which was a Continuity comic, and one of Arthur's big idols, of course, Michael Golden, drew an issue of Toy Boy. It was a time travel issue, and anything that Michael Golden drew at that time was the best thing that had ever happened, up until that moment. I mean, that's how good he was. I mean, his Marvel fanfare stuff, anything you found by him where he drew a complete issue, that G.I. Joe special #2 that he did with, that 15 or 20 page story. Anyways, so he drew an issue of Toy Boy, which was at his peak. It was peak Michael Golden, beautiful artwork. And Neil Adams redrew all the faces. I think that's the famous one where Michael Golden tore up the pages.
Oh, really? That was it?
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, I love Neil Adams, but please don't draw over Michael Golden. Please.
Well, it sounds apropos to kind of how Neil operates. So, he was very strong-headed and an unbelievable talent, of course, Yeah. So, but yeah, so sometimes people lose a little decorum, I think, in those situations.
Oh, the few pages that survived, I know the guy who has them. But again, it holds up with the great, the great art jobs in history, except for all the Neil Adams pasted on faces.
Oh man, don't draw over my faces.
I'm a lot like
you.
I don't draw like you.
Hey guys, I'm about wrapped here. I'm gonna sign this. How do you want to handle it, JC? Walden, thank you, by the way, for doing this. I know you got better things
you're not
to
gonna
do.
eat the other one?
Excuse me?
Are you gonna eat the other one?
No, JC doesn't pay me enough.
Well, Zach is basically limping through this right now.
I'm sweating on my page. My hand is dragging ink everywhere.
I feel bad for him that he even had to do any drawing today, because he should probably be doing whatever it is that COVID sick people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to sign off, and I can just chill with Walden and finish off the drawing here.
So when you sign, are you going to sign author's name, or are you just going to sign your name?
What I'm going to do, some of the, like if I have Zach or somebody, I'll link their name or Buscema. But what I'm started doing for this show, I sign it, and then usually there's a blue line in here of the person's name. I just put I'll take their inks from another piece, their signature, and then just paste it in there, because we're just showing these off online. It's not gallery ready. So yeah, I'll just sign it, and I usually apologize to the artist.
Well, did I tell you your Zek drawing? Somebody commented that they thought it was Chris Bacalo.
Oh, really?
Isn't that funny?
It is funny. A lot of people see Bacalo, whatever the hell, however you pronounce it. I get compared to him a lot.
Bachman Turner.
For some reason, because it's weird because the only comic I have of his is Death, the Time of Your Life, or whatever. That unbelievable book that he did back in the day.
Well, you plus Bacalo, you plus Zach equals Bacalo, apparently.
Okay, well, there you go. I don't know what me plus Arthur is, but it's fucking right there, right?
Let me get a close-up of it here for the... Oh, wow, dude.
Oh, that looks great.
That's really nice.
I like that background.
Wow, man.
It's so simple and so effective.
Oh, that is really good.
Thank you, everyone. Walden, honored. You're not puking violently looking at my stuff. So I do appreciate that, sir.
Cool. Really nice, man. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't send that to me.
I'll stick it in the same box with your other art that you don't want, okay? I drew a mugshot of him. It's this beautiful artwork.
I saw it.
Great original.
The podcast?
Yeah. And I say, hey, do you want the piece? And he goes, no. I was like, okay.
I swear to God, I don't remember ever saying that. It's like a running joke at this point. Why would I turn down a picture of myself? I mean, I have.
Dude, I was stunned. I was stunned.
I don't remember that, but there's a lot of stuff I don't remember these days. So what are you gonna do?
It was actually the third time I brought it up when I was giving you piss about it that you're like, oh wait, you offered me that?
That's how clueless I am. It's kind of sad.
Oh, it's okay. People have to put up with me being sweaty pants today.
You did a good job. You're a trooper, man. I'm glad you were able to. I hope you must have had some energy drinks or something. You look like you're surviving over there.
Yeah,
I took a mound of vitamins for this. I'm just not my normal, lowbrow, witty self.
Yeah, no poop jokes, no dick jokes, man. This is weird.
Yeah, my normal. No, it's highbrow toilet humor. That's how I want to describe it. So.
Listen, but that's my entire family lives on that stuff. We live.
There you go. That's what makes me laugh.
My daughter Lily, who's 5, she's got her butt is like literally this big, and she farts like a 400-pound man. She lay on the couch, she looks over at me and she smiles and she lets out this fart and it sounds like a tuba. I'm
just like, thunder.
How do you do this? It's like, I don't know. She's got good genes, I'll tell you that.
Okay. All done.
There we go.
Cool. Can you hold up?
Walden, you're a master, man. You're a master. Look at that. Looks like Arthur.
That is fantastic. Wow.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Crushing that hatch work.
Beautiful job. So the original cover that this came from, the left hand didn't exist. So I had to paste the right hand onto the left hand.
I was gonna say the hand, the knuckle.
Kind of the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say the knuckles. I could tell something was going on there. They looked exactly the same. To your point,
it's my turn.
Zach, what did you get over here?
Excuse me.
This part.
I made it a little flap from the cuff of the shirt or lapel of the coat.
Yeah, you guys did the same thing. Pull it up closer. Yeah, you guys handled it.
Okay.
So is interesting. I pushed it over his knee, which it looked like he had drawn, and it creates an interesting depth thing that I kept. Even though in my mind it didn't make sense, it always makes sense in Arthur's drawing.
But I love what Walden did with the Indiana Jones Wolverine. Like nobody ever mentions that when they talk about Wolverine. There's like, oh, I like the brown costume Wolverine. I like yellow costume. It's
I know,
like,
right?
This is the costume. This is the shit right here. He's smoking a cigar. He's got a cool hat on, a leather jacket. I mean, that's the coolest Wolverine ever.
He's got some gym shorts in his gym bag.
He's got his gym bag. He's ready for whatever. He's down for whatever.
He can party. He can work out. Bring it on.
Dude, Arthur, we need to talk to Art and figure out what the fuck he had in mind. He's like, what's in the bag? You know, what do you got cooking?
A lot of cool pop culture stuff in his work, obviously, Walden, since you've inked it, you know. So it'd be neat to hear his explanation of it, right?
He could be if he weren't a comic book artist, he'd be a comedian.
He could really be a comedian.
He's hilarious, and like if he's sitting next to Mignola, it's like watching it's like going to a comedy routine. I mean, like what you know?
It's awesome, man.
Mignola's like the dark comic. And then Art is kind of like the lighter guy. It's really
yin and yang there of comedy humor or comic book humor.
It's funny. It's funny. I mean, they really are great together. But I know, Zach, I know you got to go lay down and get yourself back. So we'll wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. This is Walden. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You are one of our favorite artists, and you're just one of my favorite people, period. And your artwork always knocks me out. And so thanks for coming to the Blacklist Underground, and let's do this again for Paul Smith.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'll get a couple other guys to come along, and we'll really have a good time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's nice to meet you, Zach.
You too, Walden. Again, I'm getting redundant, but true honor. It was super cool to chat with you and ink alongside you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, later, guys.
All right, see you later.